So basically, I've got a sort of a story. I think it's serious, and we need to talk about it. I think I'll talk for like 45 minutes, then we have like 45 minutes, I think, to discuss. So here we go. I called it, I think this is a picture that went viral through Facebook, and of course, in a way, we all think, oh, the kids are not looking at the screen, and that. But then again, very few people actually spend 10 minutes looking at the Rembrandt painting. I mean, we must be honest about that as well. And it also turned out that this was a class that had an assignment to do something with the painting on the apps and things like that. But then again, it's kind of an iconic situation that we all know. But so I called it 4 drivers, 3 trajectories, and 1 sort of solution. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to skip the first 2 because basically it's going to be the same. So I'm also going to give input next Thursday for the AI robotics meeting in Brussels. And basically I'm going to say the same thing as I'm going to say here. Maybe at the end I'm going to show a short movie, and that's because we can then delete it from the film as we are taping this. And so very quickly, I think I'll dive immediately into the drivers. I think we have 4 drivers. One is sort of the changing nature of power. 2, the extra in techne, old Heidegger sort of style technology. 3, dataism, and 4, managing motivation. And I think I'm a big fan of Torgal comic books. So here's Torgal, my hero, coming from all kinds of worlds, but basically all quite atavistic with with a sword, and then he's always up against these sort of sci-fi situations of people in highly technological environments, and I think a little bit we all feel like that. So the changing nature of power. I'm very bad with numbers. So I come from literature. I studied literature and language. I'm very far away from my original field. I'm working now with engineers and computer scientists. Maybe I will quickly tell you how I sort of got here, but basically I got here because I saw this connectivity, this notion of tying everything together, this notion of individuating all objects on the planet, in which we're now in the process of doing. And I always thought it was a bit of a story, but it's becoming very, very, very real. It's all around us. So Stinchkamp, he's looking into power and how how power is managed by systems. So basically, he says a person is 1, and then 0.6 of the power on that person is generic, and 0.4 is idiosyncratic. So that is you as you. Now, if you scale that to 1 million, then the 0.6 remains the same, and the 0.4 becomes 0.00000. So we can easily see how it's possible for large, let's say, more autocratic systems to pick out individuals, label them as something strange or sort of dissident, and because you can do that because the 0.6 on which you steer is always remaining constant. So if you have this scale, then basically the very notion of scale has become equal with our notion of success. So in order to be successful, we have to grow. This is the story. But actually, it turns out that this story is there because as you grow, you buy into the management tools that will then have you buy into this cycle. So what the internet has been doing, and from the ARPANET from the 50s, 60s to the browser in the 90s, it has changed this relationship. It's very serious. This is a relationship that has remained constant for ages. This is how dictators have worked. This is how dictators sometimes still work. But the internet has managed to somehow move this more to like 0.5, 0.5. So when I say Snowden, you know who he is. When I say Chelsea Manning, who's probably, yes, going to be released May 17, fantastic. Or when I say Julian Assange, sort of like, we now are in the age of what intelligence agencies call super empowered individuals. And these super empowered individuals somehow have even more traction sometimes, or more agency than states or agencies or more institutions. So I think this is that's really important. The nature of power, the nature of what is successful is changing. And this also, I think, reflects on what we see with these younger generations that are no longer really motivated by loads amounts of money or loads amounts of this or that, but there's a lot of other things that come into play. So the second driver is this efficiency paradigm. And this has invaded basically everything. So if I go now and say to anybody, I don't want to be efficient, I'm out. I don't want to be optimal. I don't want to be optimized. I don't want to function in a perfect, optimized, optimal, efficient way. Then you don't get the job, you don't get the task. Then basically you're marginalizing yourself. This of course is not a given. This is something that's been construed. So I think we are in a day and age of the winning of this intelligence that somehow claims that efficiency and optimization is the most important thing or the most important mode of being. Now, this abstracts into all kinds of relationships, and it breaks them down into trackable, traceable, quantifiable properties. And this we know. Here we are also here because of that. Now, if you Google Heidegger walking, you get these fantastic, beautiful videos of Heidegger walking in the mountains, sort of with this sort of like this, looking very serious, pondering all of this. And of course, he's pondering the extra that is happening in all of this technology. It's very, very physical. So I can sort of pull only this amount of weight, but if I make a kind of instrument, I can pull more. So something is happening. There's some extra that I've made or that has been made. And in Heidegger's thinking, this extra has accumulated over the days and over the years and over the decades, over the ages, into something maybe even autonomous called technology or techne, something. Now imagine this extra for Heidegger only was somehow mechanical. So this extra for us is in software, only being able to be debugged by other sort of software. So we are now in a situation in which we are fully surrounded by objects that are identifiable by either barcodes, RFID, radio frequency identification, near-field communication, QR codes, dynamic codes. We have IP46 and basically a lot of the new things that are coming out. We are driving connected cars, and we will be driving connected cars for a long time. We may have wearables, we may have a smart home. We're basically in this paradigm of all the objects becoming sort of smart. Now, Heidegger saw this accumulation of energy through these mechanical and industrial means, sort of purely, let's say, intelligence, messing around with our notions of becoming, which was basically the notion of, let's say, human becoming, human dreams, intelligence, thinking, in such a way that there was this beautiful term, extelligence, that we now seem to have some kind of notion about intelligence coming from us as sort of humans, and extelligence as somehow coming from an environment that is sort of becoming autonomously awake. And this is also the discussion in artificial intelligence. So this extra, so it's about managing this extra. And then of course we have this dataism. So the Shanghai government has now released Honest Shanghai, and then you sign in with your ID, with your national ID number. And then you draw up about 3,000 information databases, and that gives you a kind of score. So if you have a good score, then you can get discounts. If you have a bad score, then you don't get the discounts, and maybe you don't get the job, or maybe you don't get this, and maybe you don't get that, so you better have a good score. And then there's this other story, which is totally unrelated, or seemingly unrelated, from Jan Joors, who was somebody who was traveling a while with gypsies. And one of the hardest things for him was to be in the open with all the other gypsies, but also to have no privacy at all. And with living together with the gypsies, there was basically there was also no need for this type of privacy. Everybody was together. It was only when you were going to have to relieve yourself or go to the toilet that people would wander into the woods and not say anything about it. Everybody knew what was going to happen, but nobody ever told about it. It was a big, big, big taboo. You didn't do that. So for the gypsies, privacy is a kind of a state of mind. Is something that is like a negotiation. Is like an agreement. Is something that you can you have in a group. And they always wondered about the non-gypsies having doors, because if you have a door, you have a key, and then you have a hole. So of course you're going to pry through the hole. So that the whole thing about the key is the hole, but you're going to pry to it. So it doesn't make any sense really. Now, so what I think we need is some kind of thinking, some kind of framework that's able to have both of these activities as practice of everyday behavior, because we cannot get rid of the honesty app. I'm actually going to propose that we're going to do something like similar to it, to a certain something, or think about it. But we can also not easily dismiss very old experiences and feelings of need to be alone that we all have. So, managing motivation. Now, the ARPANET may be 50, 60 years old, but the browser is only 24. So Mosaic Christmas was 1993. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. So Tim Berners-Lee put HTML, open sourced it, which was unheard of at that time. Anybody else would have made it into an application. We would have had 15 browsers, 15 webs, 50. We wouldn't have an internet. We would have an internet, but not running a web. We would have 15 webs or something like that, and lots of gateways in between the webs. And he put this on top of TCP/IP, this crazy protocol by Khan and Cerf, saying pass on the packet. It's such a crazy protocol. There's no security involved. It's just nobody cares where the packet goes to. Nobody cares where it comes from. It just says pass on the packet. Now, because of these two crazy protocols, because also Tim Berners-Lee said just pass on the link, Ted Nelson was there with Xanadu saying you cannot do this. We have to at least have some reciprocity in linking to something. This is a document system. So in 24 years, we are in a situation we have this full flow of data. And I come from a situation in which the book, or let's say the Gutenberg Press, was around from 1452, but the first free public book lending in the UK and in the Netherlands was 1918. So if I ask, can I read a book in my language in 1600, I get burned. And if I ask, can I read a book in my language in 1700, I probably get hanged. And if I ask, can I read a book in 1900, I probably go to jail because I must be some kind of activist or agitator, because who wants to read a book in 1900 if you're not already in universities? But if I'm a simple person, I can only get a book in 1918 for free. So basically everything we built from all types of institutions that I grew up with this book, were built on making things exclusive. We're built on not on inclusiveness. We're not built on flow. They were built on the opposite of flow: patents, NDAs, and what have you. So growing up in a network, and this was something, of course, that we didn't ponder when we were building the first websites in the 90s, is such a crazy thing. It's like an alien generation, of course, because you grow up in a network, you're in these screens, everything works perfectly until you close your screen, and then you have to confront the real world, which is like totally crazy because it's built on all these things that is not the network. And this, of course, is the trouble of all companies, people, institutions having to manage millennials and this generation. So with these 4 drivers, I think we face 3 main trajectories. And when I say we, let's say talk about Europe. The first one is that this Internet of Things, which is basically lining up the 4 networks. So you have let's take the 4 monitors. You have the body area network, where you have all your wearables. You have the local area network, where you have the smart home. You have the wide area network, where you have your car and mobility and telematics. And you have the very wide area network, where you have your smart city. So Internet of Things is linking up these 4 networks to provide seamless connectivity to me and my devices. That's basically Internet of Things. The term stuck because it was not tied to one company. So ambient intelligence was pushed by Philips, so other companies could not follow. Pervasive computing was pushed by IBM, so other companies also could not follow. Ubiquitous computing was Xerox PARC, Mark Weiser, Calm Computing, fantastic work, brilliant stuff. And all of that will basically, all the things we talk about, all the gadgets were all there in the 80s and 90s, but the cloud wasn't there. So 1 gigabyte of storage is, in 1980 is $192,000. So you cannot do anything. You can do a demo, but you can now, if you have a Google or a Chrome notebook, you get 100 gigabyte for Google for free. So this is about 30 years. In 30 years, it went from $190,000 for a gigabyte to like nothing for 100 gigabyte for free. That's the cloud. So the cloud enables Internet of Things in a sense that it's able to store all this data and then also have other actuators act on that data. But basically, it's nothing new. So all the things that we talk about, all the gadgets were all there, all the processes were there, the reference architectures, the frameworks, the people did it. But they could only do it in real time, only do it in the world after 2000, when the cloud became apparent, and the cloud is not going. So the cloud is now fueling all of this. So you can also see where the business is. So either you have to be in a network, you have to be big in a wearable, or big in a home, or big in a car, or big in a city. But the most money is in the gateways, so linking up all the gateways. So for example, if you look what Google is doing, Google has a glass and a lens for the body space. So I go home, I sync the data from my Google Glass and my lens into the Nest. They had a power meter, did not really work, so they bought Nest. There's also a bit of trouble with the design people from Nest and the geeks from Google, but still, they got Nest. So my body data or my health data are now in the Nest. The Nest knows how I feel. Then I go into my car. Google has a car. They have their own car. They're in 3 out of 5 automotive associations. They're in YouTube and Gmail. So I can never ever buy a car that does not have Google in it. It will always be in the car, whether it could be the car in a software or in a media system. And then it has, of course, Google Org. And with Google Org, it's in every library in the world. It's in every library in every city. It's sponsoring every open data initiative. If you dream of an initiative on a Tuesday, you get a mail on a Wednesday that they would like to sponsor it. So Google is doing this because I, as an end user, I am not going to pay to one set of companies for my health data, another set of companies for my home, another set of companies for my mobility, and another set of companies for what's left of a smart city after everybody's done with it, which is basically not much in public sense, but there's a lot of privatized services. No, I'm going to pay to whoever is able to offer me everything, the Google now, to the extreme. So that's why I think it's so important that we keep all these gateways in public hands. The moment that we lose the gateways, that the gateways become private, we basically lose every agency. We have no more agency, no more policy agency, no more city agency. And all the research that we and you are going to be doing are going to feed right into Silicon Valley of the top players. So if we put that together with these drivers, then the logical trajectory is, let's say, 500 gated communities, cities in the world, heavily guarded, military patrolled, and Mad Max in between. I think it's about 5 to 10 years that we have for this. Yeah, so I think gated communities are one of the fastest rising form of building. These gated communities are not cities. So when people talk about smart cities, smart cities are cities for like 15,000, 20,000 people. And you'll lease everything there. So probably you're going to pay about 60, 70% of everything you have. But you can enter and just drive any car. Your food will be stocked for you, blah, blah, blah. Everything will be leased. So you basically lease life. And I think this trajectory is the way, at the moment, what everything happening, the money pouring in to stable investments. I was in Milan in December talking at the Executive Business Club about the Internet of Things, and there was a session on Vietnam, which I found very interesting. And the Italian ambassador to Vietnam was Skyping in. And all of a sudden it turned out that a lot of Italian money, big money, is investing in Vietnam, in the Asian tigers, as it's called, in Singapore, also China. Why? Because it's a stable government. Their investments are guaranteed. It's quite stable. Interesting, of course, that the single party system in Vietnam is the Communist Party. So the capital that is here now, also a lot of Italian capital, instead of investing in their own country, they take it out and they start investing in places like Vietnam and the Asian tigers and sort of Singapore. Now, why are they doing this? So at the very same time, this single layer of government, Singapore, is guaranteeing stable investment, but it's also introducing the latest Internet of Things technologies. And that is what people are now, European funders, Italian funders, are investing in. So I think, and this is what I'm trying to get through, is that we should offer them an alternative to the situation in which they can also feel more comfortable in investing back home. Okay, so this is another trajectory. Decentralized local solutions, networked integration. So this is also happening everywhere. All across Europe, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of fantastically small, brilliant, local initiatives happening on sharing food, sharing cars, sharing this, everything. LoRaWAN solutions are being used. LoRa is a very cheap technology with which you can have a particular type of connectivity. Let's say for 1,300 or 1,400 euros for a whole city. For example, the city of Amsterdam, you can cover the whole of Amsterdam with about 12 to 13 LoRa masts. So with about 3,000 to 4,000 euros, you have the kind of connectivity that you can sort of put in a little bit in a boat. A lot of people have boats in Amsterdam. If there's water in the boat, then this LoRa sensor can detect that, and you can get a text, there's water in the boat, or somebody else can get a text, there's water in the boat, as a service, and they clean out the water for you, things like that. This type of low-bit, small messages systems can actually be built now by local entrepreneurs and hackers and Fab Lab type of maker communities for very, very little. We have Arduino coming from Italy, of course, and Massimo Banzi and Ivrea maturing and teaming up with Intel and ARM and sort of all these building really, really strong processors that are for industrial use. And this is leading to some kind of open source, a lot of open source developments. And all this IoT can support pollution, mobility, sharing resources, decision-making, participatory budgeting. So this is all happening. but can it scale? So this is all happening, and so, but what will be the result? So then there's another trajectory, and this is the trajectory that I would like to put to you. And then we look at Singapore. And Singapore is really an interesting example because Singapore has no natural resources whatsoever. They only have people. But that's very nice and interesting in a time where territory is gold, or when money is gold, but now data is gold. And data is in the hands of Google, Amazon, eBay, all the Silicon Valley over-the-top players. It's not in the hands of the Singaporean government. Also not in the hands of the EU. So that's also the point I'm going to get to. So unless Singapore builds its own cloud, builds its own system, its own pragmatic cybernetics to host all that data, and then also to build new aggregated services back to their people, it will fail and falter, and people will leave. That's not what they want, so they're building this system. This is something that, that we will see happening more. Now, Singapore is 5. Can we scale this to Europe, to 500 million? But if we see all this, so we have a 500 million zone at this moment. I live in Belgium, but I have I'm a one-man company, and I pay my taxes in Holland. And I'm talking a lot to a lot of the policymakers in Holland, and but basically I'm also saying, look, I'm paying taxes, but what do I get? You privatized all your services. My data is my gold. It's not in your hands. You don't own it. You don't have it. So basically, I'm paying some taxes for a passport. I think it's too much. I'd like to pay 300 euros for a passport. But that's basically all you have to offer me. All the rest I've got to do myself anyway, right? If everything's privatized, I got to pay my own health, got to pay water, got to pay all of these things anyway. What are you offering me? You're not offering me, not even offering me stability. You don't even have the gold that's mine, and I don't have it either, which is my data, and you don't own it as well. So now I can say this because I'm very happy, and I really want to pay a lot of taxes to keep this society going, and to keep these sewage systems afloat, and to keep all these roads going, and to do that. I'm perfectly fine with it. But the current policymakers are making it very difficult for me to keep up that position. And in that position, I'm now in a position I can easily build my own house with a few friends, with my own septic tank, and put in all these old tools. I can be totally autonomous from all of the providers that I was sort of dependent on early, from all of these state actors. They are totally gone, basically. Well, if I can think of this, a lot of other people are going to think of it. Now, and this is coming on top of the current populism that we have already. So we're in a situation in which most citizens in Europe at this moment in time of these national governments are totally fed up with all these national governments, totally fed up with politicians, totally fed up with the whole sort of system. And then on top, once they realize that they're still paying these people while they have no more agency to actually give them anything back in services, the whole thing's going to blow. And this is, I think, going to happen in 5 to 10 years. So we have to be more clever, and you have got to help me and friends to do so. Now, so what can we still do? Now, if we look at, so let's say this is a table. What's on the table? Okay, here's Google, there's eBay, there's Amazon. We got nothing. For the past 10 years, I've been involved in European Internet of Things projects. I was stakeholder coordinator for IoTA with Hitachi and Siemens and SAP and everything. There's no alignment, there's no integration. The IoTA reference architecture framework was not even made mandatory by the Commission to actually have this reference architecture engage all the subsequent IoT projects. So, I mean, basically, so we have no integration, we have no data, we have no social sort of networks. We have Industry 4.0 because Angela Merkel is an engineer. That's basically the only sort of reason. So what have we got on the table is basically very little, but we still define the table. How do we define the table? It's a very simple thing. We all have a passport. This is the last thing that we have. So the last real thing that we can use as leverage in this situation is the passport. So what we have to do is we need to get to a situation like China, that has like one player on energy. The last Chinese government had 12 top politicians, out of which 9 were engineers, running the country already like a platform for 30, 40 years. Creating a kind of stability, but of course, they lack on our notion of openness on data. So compared to China, we could build the same type of centralized infrastructure for Europe, and then a decentralized system for data. So that we could leave totally free for people to make apps of and make services on and do all these things. So how do we get now from a 500 million zone to a single European cloud, which we need? If we don't own our own data, if we don't host the data, if the data are hosted in the Silicon Valley over the top layers, we have nothing, we have no agency. Sort of maybe we can run like 3 to 4, 5 more years, but then people will actually start paying more to those over the top players than they would have to do in like taxes to local governments that are getting poorer. So if somebody is robbing you, you have to do something. Now this is war. And if we don't understand that we need this single set of federated EU clouds, which are going to host all the data, then basically, well, I think we'll have no more agency. So how do we get to this cloud? Well, we can get to this cloud by a very cunning plan, which is to issue everyone, the next time you get a passport, you get a device. Now, I was talking about this with Siim Sikkut, who is the Estonian advisor, the government advisor, and they built the Estonian e-card. So we have the Estonian e-card, which is a brilliant, fantastic, it's already a service. So we can imagine 500 million people on the Estonian e-card as a kind of service. But that's the kind of module in your phone now. It's a kind of chip. Why don't we build our own phone? So then we get 500 million phones. So everybody gets a phone. This phone we can build our own. It'll be fully secure, and once it's more than 3 meters away from you, it can sort of alert, blah, 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 go all crazy. But the thing is, it's the only viable way of getting everything back. Because once everybody has this device, that device will only talk to our platforms. It will only talk to, let's say, a set of federated IoT platforms. It will only build to the EU cloud. We can put hyper-local data in there, and within 3 to 5 years, people will start using it more, and gradually we'll go off. We'll build our own Facebooks, our own Googles, our own things. So we're trying to sort of, that's basically the plan. So now I want you all to think about how we're gonna do this. One way we're going to do this is I'm going to submit a proposal to the Next Generation Internet Initiative, which is coming up in April. And we put together a team of people that were also building the Belgian identity card, Siim Sikkut, sort of all the sort of big players, hackers also, because we don't want it to get hacked immediately. The hackers have to be involved from the beginning. And we need to have buy-in from all of these groups, but all of the groups also want some stability and some public agency still. But basically, we've got to find a way to convince the next commission or to get good people in the next commission. So we cannot suffer this again, right? So we had to go through Nelly Kroes, who killed the RFID we killed the Internet of Things expert group, which I was part of in 2000, which was headed by Gerald Santucci, who put a brilliant team together. And she and the team didn't believe that he could basically pull it off, and they pulled the plug midway, which is unheard of. So these types of situations we cannot no longer have, and then we have all these other types of people that don't really get it. So we must make sure that the next commission gets it. We don't need 9 engineers out of 12 people, but we need the good people there. So basically, it looks a bit like this. So here you have your device layer, which is people talk about the blockchain, people talk about sort of all of these things, but we got to get away from TCP/IP. TCP/IP is a crazy protocol, like I said. It's pass on the packet. FinSurf was there with Google from 2009. I'm not going to say it's a plot that was conducted sort of from the ARPANET and all of that, but these are very serious and very, very smart people. But we cannot have the same people building the protocols also reaping the rewards in terms of data of such a crazy system. So we should block and get out of TCP/IP. This is happening. The new term, the coming decade, will be splinternet, not internet. So the splinternet is a term that will come up because China is building its own large intranet, is moving away from TCP/IP. Russia is doing the same, and like I said, we should do the same too. So it's been a nice ride. It's a nice system coming from the 60s, 70s. It's done great things, but now it's moving all our value in terms of data away out of our hands into the agency of private over-the-top players. And this is unheard of, and is also is very, very strange. I mean, we may even go so far as to say that we can understand or even like people like Larry Page or sort of like all of these. But do you know their children? I mean, they're going to inherit all of this. I mean, what if it's sort of like the few people that we actually think that we can sort of trust? We are moving all our data into the hands of a few families, and we're willingly doing this. And we're also sponsoring this as a commission. So the European Commission is not even able to organize a system in which people can write proposals and keep that secret. Most people are building their proposal on Google Docs. Google is reading all our proposals from the entire European research community. And there's not one single instance that people are actually saying or thinking that we should sort of change this. Well, if there's not even such a kind of realization at the level of this, then we definitely need new people. We need people who understand what's going on. So the device layer, that's where you have your passport, your machine passport. And then you can go up into these networks. So you have the health, the home, the car, and then you have this data layer. And in this idea, the data stay with people, stay with me. So all the data in this data layer stay with the citizens, and the citizens entitle players to actually enrich the data as services and sort of come back and do with that. Then you get, so this was the proposal we made for Singapore in 2015 when I got a one-on-one with Vivian Balakrishnan, who's then Minister of Smart Nation, is now Minister of Foreign Affairs, but still running the Smart Nation initiative. So then you can choose what kind of network you would like to have as a spearhead. You can run security as a service because it's not running on the internet as is now, which is by default insecure. It's totally, is unbelievable. Is not securable. It's sort of the insecurity was built into the ARPANET when they built the real-time layer. So there's no security possible there. It's just a waste of time trying to make that secure. And then you can have the whole of your sort of framework, or here we go Singapore, as a testbed for industrial applications. So basically, I think we should build this for Europe. Now, it's so logical, right? So in this wearable space, everybody sort of assumes and agrees with the fact that there is some data and some algorithms going on. in the home, the Nest is sort of organizing a lot of decision making for you. And we like that, we pay for that. For the car, the connected car or the telematics, and sort of it's going to be sort of running the car in packs. That's what some of the projects are actually proposing. And we like that, and we're doing that. In a city, I mean, I just finished the Sociotal, which is like the smart city project in which I was community manager in Novi Sad and Santander, which has the largest sort of community sort of type of test bed with all the sensors, and we did a lot of good things there, and we all agree that we need some computing power and algorithmic decision making in the smart city, and then we're in politics, and we get these people. We get these populists, and even if we don't get the populists, we get people who should not be there at this moment because they have really no clue. So, for example, in Holland, I refuse to talk to any politician anywhere, basically anywhere. It's just a waste of time. It's a total waste of time. So we try to find some good civil servants who sort of understand sort of this urgency and what is happening here. But even there is very difficult because people are so much in their everyday sort of routine and rhythm, as if we don't act, we will sit here still in 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, which may not be the case. So it's about this urgency that needs to be done. So this was from the December forum in Milan. So there was Franco Bruni, and he talked about this Roderick's trilemma. And Roderick's trilemma goes basically, any reform of the international economic system will face up to this trilemma. If we want more globalization, give up some democracy or some national sovereignty. But then we can all three leave us in a no man's land. Now, so in a way it's quite strange and interesting that, because I come from all of this bottom-up activity and been reading all these bottom-up philosophers, and but we have to have some top-down activity now. We have to have some hard decisions, like the decisions people are making in Singapore, where the decision was made to take Singapore as an entity into the 21st century, and then build this kind of smart city as a kind of smart nation, and think about identity management in that context. So I think we're now in a very strange moment where the people that understand this and the people that are having the money to invest do no longer look to Italy or to Europe, because basically they already have given up on it. So they're moving all their funds out to these places, in which basically we can actually have much less influence on the openness of all of these situations. Whereas I think we could build a much better balance between extreme centralization on the infrastructure, spectrum, protocols, reference architectures. When I was in IOTA, the Commission was still also funding sort of competing projects. I could not understand that at that time already. I thought, do you think it's playtime or something? It's like, a lot of the people are still thinking that sort of it's not serious. It's really, they're playing. There's still like this, they're building these, sort of playing with the projects and sort of shoveling them around and sort of, I couldn't understand why at such a moment in time, not all resources would move to like one big flagship and then sort of have that distributed over all the other projects. Still, sort of, may not be too late, but what we can do is if we can build maybe this centralization, I think we can, but we can definitely build the decentralization, the decentralized part. Now imagine if you have such a device. That could be direct democracy on the ground. that device would have so much data, so you could do referenda all the time on the ground locally. So it could really fuel direct democracy on the ground. While at the same time, it could make sure that the infrastructure able to do that is not going to break. Yeah, so that's it.